Hi guys, Alicia with Working Dog Radio, Torchlight Canine, and Oil Capital Canine Fund. Thank you guys for tuning in to another awesome episode. Please check us out on YouTube. It's a new format for us. We'd love to have you as a subscriber. We're going to start doing some training videos and some other cool stuff on there. So we would really appreciate your follow on there. We'd like to take a second to thank our amazing sponsors. Without them, none of this would be possible. So guys, please check out Kinetic Dog Food, 513-615-6904. They are amazing. American Aluminum Accessories. They make all things canine insert. They've got some new heat alarms. Please check them out. Give them a call at 800-277-0869. Horizon Structures. Everything mild to wild in a dog kennel. They have it. They will drop it off at your door. Give them a call at 888-447-4337. If you guys haven't checked out Highland Canine Training yet, what are you waiting for? Jason and Aaron are amazing. They've got all kinds of courses, classes, and schools going on. Please check out Highland Canine Training at Tactical Police, the letter K, the number 9, training.com. Ray Allen Manufacturing, right there in Colorado. Everything is sewn there. They are amazing. They do so many collaborations with so many of the actual working canine guys in our industry, including me. Give them a shout. Check them out at rayallen.com and use the discount code WDR10RAY for 10% all things Ray Allen. Dogtra.com. If you have an e-collar, if you use an e-collar, if you have a working dog or a pet dog, check out Dogtra. They've got all of the products that you need. You can go to dogtra.com and use discount code WDR10 for 10% off a single item over $200. Enjoy the episode. We'll be back. Thanks.
All right, we are back post-Turkey Day. This is Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. I'm Ted Summers from Tulsa, Oklahoma. With me, as always, from Canton, Ohio, is Eric Stanbro. Eric, what's up?
It's winter here now, but
I was going to ask. Yeah, I saw Buffalo is getting like 97 feet of snow or something.
Even my buddy Travis, who's in Ohio, Pennsylvania line, a couple hours from here, hour and a half from here, he had like 39 inches or some shit, man. Fuck all that.
I'm good.
Nope.
Pass.
So, we're just, working on the pet business. December is usually slow. We're trying to avoid that. And
it's because everybody keeps their dogs at home, and then Christmas comes around and their dogs are dickheads, and they're like, we need to get this dog trained. In January, it gets busy.
Yeah, well, the Friday after Thanksgiving, we got several leads that you could tell where the dog was a problem the day before at family. Jumps on family, steals food, barks at everybody. And we're like, yep, we know what happened.
Yeah, 100%. Like, timing is everything, huh?
Yep. So I don't have any working dog stuff in December. So these clients of ours from the pet side are, they have a house in Florida and they got to go down there and, it's being repaired from the hurricane. They want to sell it, but they can't drive because the guy's got some issues. So they're going to fly and they're going to pay me to drive their Tesla and their dog down there. Like the middle of December, I'm going to drive it down there to Punta Gorda, Florida, hop in the airplane, Breeze Airlines, and fly back. So not bad. It should be. Just going to haul ass in their Tesla on the way down there, and it should be easy. Get out of the cold for 2 days, really. And then what do I got? Something in January. Going out to California to teach at a big conference out there. Should be fun.
What conference is that?
The I don't have the initials in front of me. It's a large one. It's in Anaheim.
Oh yeah.
It used to be something else. They changed names. Sorry, guys. I don't.
It's not the Law Dog thing, is it?
No, I can't remember anything because of brain injury. So I just booked my flight the other day. Good dudes, good time. It's going to be kind of like teaching a class in the stations, where you can break off and bring your dog and do stuff. So I'll just be teaching tone avoidance mostly to people and see if we can't fix some issues that folks might have. The book sales are killing it. They're going along pretty good.
Yeah.
I think the last 3 days of October and then the whole month of November totaled like 950 books sold. Wow. Pretty good. And then this is what's today, 2nd or 3rd of December. Got like 20, 21 sold so far. So it's cruising along pretty good.
You still have time if you're listening to this when it publishes to get some for Christmas, and you can get the hard copy.
Be there. That's right.
And you can get the hard copy from Amazon, and you can do this talking suffer for it.
And you'll get it in a day and a half, 2 days, whatever it is. Just look up my name on Amazon. It pops up. E-collar without conflict for pets and working dogs. It's a good time. So what's going on over there?
I got halfway through this handler school. I got this week and next week, and they certify and go back to work. And these dogs are freaking rock stars. I have a single purpose Malinois and a single purpose golden retriever, which came to us because she was biting people, and the family surrendered her to us. And she's gangster, like one of the better detection single purpose floppy ears I've done in a long time, which says a lot because I've done a lot of really nice ones recently. And she's a badass, and she's going to Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics. She's kind of earmarked or pipelined for their airport interdiction guys. So next week I'm going to take them out to Tulsa International and run around on the conveyor belts back there with all of the baggage and that kind of stuff. So this should be fun. Yeah, but I mean, the other dog is out in the middle of nowhere, a small agency out towards the Panhandle. Good handlers, so they should be productive. A bunch of my guys have been finding a bunch of stuff lately. Lots of stuff. Lots of dope, finding people. One of my guys tracked a domestic guy last night, and it was a big, giant Native American dude. It's Oklahoma. And he ended up running from them and then throwing bricks and rocks at them, and he got dogged for multiple reasons. But that definitely did not help. But my handler wasn't even working, and he called me. He's all pissed off. He's running around in his Hey Dudes and a t-shirt at 1:00 in the morning. Fucking 20 degrees outside. He's like, this sucks. My dog's dirty. My feet are wet. I'm going home. I'm like, yeah, it sounds about right.
Cavemen fended off dinosaurs with rocks and shit.
This is a drunk Indian. So drunk Indian against German Shepherd 0.
The 0-1.
Yeah. So what are we doing today? Who we got?
So we were talking the other day, and we came up with an idea to do, and we've done this a little bit in the past. We're going to do probably 5 or 6 episode series, maybe not in a row. There might be a break, different people in between, but we're going to try to do it as much as we can in a row. Are people in the working dog world that you don't know? Our guest coming on, some people do know him because he's friends with some folks that listen, and from over here in Ohio, but so we're going to talk to folks that maybe you don't know and maybe have some interesting stories. And they may say something that gives you an idea, maybe on how to make some extra money, or maybe how to shift some focus in your career. And that's what we're kind of hoping for, entertainment, and, maybe help some folks out that so like when he tells his story, there's going to be a bunch of you dudes listening going, yeah, man, I was in the same place. Working for a place, not making any money, putting life on the line and different things with dogs going on. So, and then shifting focus. So with us tonight is my good buddy, CJ Byers. CJ, what's going on, bud?
Oh, not too much. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. So CJ and I have been friends for a long time. He's going to get into kind of how we met and everything, but he works for me at the Ridgeside Canine, Ohio location. If you can see, we both have our Ridgeside hoodies on. For some reason, mine shows up in reverse. He owns his own little company called Relentless K9. As a matter of fact, he's helping his old agency right now kind of work on their dog stuff a little bit. But he's a perfect example of taking your knowledge in working dogs and being able to put it into business or put it into the pet world, and then expanding your horizon and some other things. So CJ, tell everybody about yourself, where you're from, all that stuff, how you got into the dog, your beginnings, all that, and how you and I met, and how horrible it was working with me when I was training.
It was terrible. Yes. No, I'm just I'm a small town, small community, a little south of Canton. which is where, Eric had his career at down there. But I got into law enforcement 2011. Got selected for the canine in 2014. They had a little local agency down there. Or I'm sorry, not a local agency, but they had a local training facility down there that they sent me to originally, where ultimately I ended up at one point reaching out to Eric up there and getting hooked up with him that way, which obviously kind of led me into eventually working for him. So.
What was it like when you get this dog? They provided the dog for you? Did you have to go buy it?
Actually, the prior canine went through the same place, and he ended up having to retire early. He got, I believe it was Panis. So it was 4 or 5 years old. I actually was able to get the canine early on in my career, which was nice. Due to that, I was kind of, smaller agency. We were about, I think at that time, 10 full-time guys. Grew a little bit, got a little smaller from that, but I was kind of the right place at the right time for that. I was one of those guys, when I got into it, I pretty much immediately gravitated. So I started doing the right things. The bread and butter down where we're at is going to be a lot of the nose work. So getting the narcotic side of things kind of put me in the right position to get selected for that. So when it came down to it, it was when that dog got Panis, it didn't meet the working requirements on the contract. So they had to provide another dog to us. They went out and I ended up with an all black shepherd.
Well, don't leave it like that, man. People want to know. They care about the dog, so they don't really care about us. So let's talk about your dog. Give him his name. Tell him the things you love, things you were irritated by him.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest with you, man. When I got to training, it was, like I said, he was all black shepherd named Ramos. My initial training situation wasn't great, as Eric knows. I think I caught on the tail end of a very old school training mentality. I guess yank and crank would be a good way to put a lot of that stuff. But the biggest thing was I was pretty much alone. I mean, I was pretty much by myself there. I'd show up to training first thing in the morning. I was young. I was ready to go. Pretty much the trainer would be at the kitchen table, tell me what I was working on that day, and I would go up and it would just be me and that dog in the field. Luckily, the dog had a prior KMPV background, so the dog knew what they were doing and I knew nothing. So it started with me up there pretty much getting bit. I think like day 2, I about lost my nipple due to the under the arm heel technique that I knew nothing about, So I kind of struggled my way through a lot of that stuff. And I was fortunate enough to get kind of connected to a couple local guys that had ran a couple dogs at that point, and those guys really helped me out a lot. So somehow managed to get through that. There was a guy, and I was in the handler school by myself for probably the first, so a 4-month handler school. I would say the first month was by myself. Another local agency came in at that point, got a dog. So I did have somebody else with me at that point that didn't know anything either. So we were kind of up there just trying to figure it out. We might get the trainer up there maybe once a week for maybe 30 minutes as we worked all this stuff. So it was a lot of me putting a suit on, having no idea how to catch a dog. A lot of him putting a suit on, having no idea how to catch a dog, trying to work our way through problems, outing problems, all that stuff. Managed to keep all of our fingers intact and not too many bite holes. There were a few, only a little bit of blood, but so we went through that, and it was, I think it was about 4 months. We were coming up on, I think about August 1st, I think was when they set August 1st, 2014. They set our certification date. So myself and the other agency, we went through certification, passed certification, all that stuff. Started working the street. October rolls around, and we still haven't seen certifications. And back then, I can't remember when they switched to the emails, but back then, Ohio Cert, they would just send you a hard copy, and usually what, Eric, it probably took a month to get. So you didn't think much
about the 3 weeks month, yeah.
Yeah. So we didn't really think much of it, but we started calling for our certifications. Our department started asking for some certifications. Eventually, the other handler ends up calling the state, and we find out that the dogs weren't actually certified. Because in Ohio, you have to, was it a month ahead of time? I think you have to call and say, hey, we're going to certify on such and such date. And then
21 days. Yep.
Yeah. So 21 days. None of that ever happened. So, essentially we ended up, myself and, like I said, that other agency ended up working uncertified dogs on the road for a while, unbeknownst to us. I mean, we went through the whole certification as you were supposed to, at least, on paper, but nothing was filed with the state.
So here in a state, Ohio and Oklahoma both have mandatory state certifications, and this is exactly why I stay out of the certification. I know like 90% of our certifiers, so I just schedule it and I stay out of it. And so, because we've had some similar things go down here, and I'm like, I'll get you because we have a deal where you have to present a letter to test that you're good to test, that the state organizing the cleat or whoever, post or whatever version you're in, says, oh, you're good to test, but to do it, you have to take a 160-hour course now, which is great. But I stay the fuck out of it. I do not. And like, I'm there, but I don't say anything. I'm just hanging out because this kind of shit, that is not good.
Yeah. Well, the crazy thing to me is, so CJ and this other handler, you're showing up at the trainer's property. So when he says we wouldn't get the trainer up there maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks, up there means up the hill on their own property. So the trainer's there in the house, and these guys are doing like stepbrothers. They're in the garage doing homemade karate.
100%.
The fact that you made it and passed a certification, having had to make stuff up, and we didn't know each other at this point. CJ hadn't come to me. I don't even know if you knew any of the PK9 guys, any of the Carl or any of them guys yet, but these are things that we found out later that, and what was I don't remember, what was the excuse for there not being a certification?
There wasn't one. So I actually did know of you guys, and it come down to her essentially, or the trainer essentially, more or less talking a bunch of shit about the guys up north, which, I'm south of you, so that's kind of leaves one group. And what I know now is it's just a lack of understanding. She had her old school method, and this was the way of doing things, and part of me is kind of thankful that I got to go through all that, because what I did learn, I think, kind of led me down this road, of where I sit today. So it's almost hard to be super excited that all that stuff happened. But, I knew you guys existed, and, she wasn't very shy about talking about it. So, once I did finally make that call, and once we found out everything that happened, I confronted her, and when I confronted her, I was just like, hey, I mean, what you did. This is what I need to do now. And she just quiet, just didn't say anything.
So at this point, Ted, he's on the street working, hitting dope cases, doing stuff like that, uncertified.
Oh, yep. And generally on the first page of those interrogatories is usually, what certifications do you hold? What was the last 4 of your deployments look like? Can you explain your certification process for us? Can you explain what it means? So
at some point during the thing, if I remember right, during the class, the vendor that sold them the dog from Europe, he came, right? You want to talk about that?
Yeah, Franz Koster. So even throughout, and when I say that, we were up there, like you said, playing stepbrothers on the field, trying to figure things out. I knew I was just excited to be there. I was excited to have a dog. I was going to do it no matter what. So I'm constantly, right about that time too is when social media was getting out there. So I'm constantly kind of reaching out to people I could. And fortunately for me, the vendor, Franz, he was awesome. So I got a hold of him. I was able to talk back and forth. Problem came in again. We talk about some of those old school mentalities and what an e-collar is, and we're worlds away from what we're doing today with them. And, in that trainer's mind, it was oh, that's for lazy, right? So I have a dog, and this specifically started reaching out to Franz when I couldn't get him to out. So he's telling me put an e-collar on the dog. She's telling me, no, we're not putting an e-collar on the dog. That's just lazy, blah, blah, blah. But we'll do some, again, whether I agree or disagree with these methods, I know nothing at this point. So, I'm at the mercy of what's going on. So at one point, I'm putting 2 pinch collars on my dog, and that's one day that she came out, but she's got a leash in one hand. I got a leash in the other hand, and popping in 2 different directions to try to bite. And I mean, Eric can kind of attest, I had a tough dog.
Ramos was a bad dude.
Yeah, he's a very mentally strong dog. So all I'm doing is just knowing what I know now, again, just driving that conflict into that dog. So, and I remember going home with a sore elbow from popping corrections. And at the time I was thinking there's a better way. There's got to be a better way to do this. But, I was at the mercy of what was going on. Ultimately, in order to get to certification, this went on for weeks until, that trainer kind of threw their arms up, and we finally listened to Franz put an e-collar on the dog, and, was able to get an out.
Did you, I maybe have this wrong or mixed up. Did you even have 1 or 2 of the wrong commands that Franz had to give you, and you're like, oh shit, now it works? Was there one of those?
So that was the KMPV stuff.
Oh, okay.
Right? So he came out, when he came out and worked the dog, I learned more in that, maybe a 3-day seminar. I learned more in that 3 days probably than I did that whole time. And we didn't have that till October. I want to say I started my class in March of 14, something like that, March, April. And, with, they got object guard, things like that going on for him. So he had my dog doing all kinds of stuff, and talk about swallowing your pride on that one.
You're like, why is he trying to kill me around this box?
Yeah.
In the woods.
I'm out here getting bit, and Franz shows up, and he's got my dog doing all kinds of stuff. So I knew hilarious. That it was my fault at that point. So
who'd you hook up with that was with us?
So I actually reached out on Facebook. So again, that would have been, 2014. So, I mean, that was really when social media started. Everybody kind of started to connect on all this stuff. So I reached out on Facebook and to PK9A, and I'm not actually sure who was on the other end initially, but they said, hey, we'll have the head trainer call you. So I was working shift, and that's the first time I got to talk to Eric.
Yay. So. I probably just came back from California from the SEAL thing, was working the Detective Bureau for a short period of time. And then that summer, and after Hall of Fame in August, I got put back in as full time on the training side. So that would have been, right around that fall, probably.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was a spicy conversation. That's for sure. Eric's not shy, very passionate guy. So here I am knowing nothing, trying to figure out, I've got a dog that's been working the street. Obviously, once we've kind of figured all that stuff out, pulled him at that point until we could figure out how to get a cert. So kind of told Eric the story, and, he, I don't know how much I should probably cuss, but I was like, I'm like, I have the phone. I'm like this, with it away from my ear, like, holy shit. Like, okay. So this is obviously a problem, with the trainer I was, but where I was at, but
yeah, what do you know?
I just didn't know any better. Yeah, I didn't know anything. So luckily, he says, finally calms down a little bit, takes a breath, says, yeah, we'll get you taken care of. Come up, let's check out the dogs, and then we'll see if we can run you a cert. And I want to say that was in November. I got to work with you guys for a few weeks, and then it came up, and Gilmore certified me. That was the first time I met him, which those of you that know him, he's pretty intimidating dude, especially if you don't know him.
Yeah, GG.
Yeah, there's like 3 foot of snow on the ground. We're doing article search, and he's tossing credit cards into the snow and just scowling at me when I start to try to run it. And I don't know him, but luckily we got through it, and at that point I just started training with you guys.
What did you know? So for one of the things that I had heard about down there was she just let dogs piss in the training area. So like you'd be doing detection work or whatever, and just dog piss everywhere. And I was like, absolutely not. Back then at the time, if a dog pissed on our field, we got water and bleach and poured that shit on there immediately. just because that's where I learned in the beginning. It's not a bad idea, unless you're trying to work on distractions. What did you notice pretty quickly, like right away?
So I missed all that. So, and I ended up finding out that where you were talking about, you mentioned Carl earlier, those guys had been working with her years prior to me getting there. There was probably two or three teams that had been there or gotten a dog through there at some point. So at one point there were more than just one person or two people up there trying to figure it out. So I didn't even really get to see any of that stuff. By the time I was there and given the way everything played out, we were the last two teams to somewhat graduate that program. So I missed all that. Like I said, it was, when I say it was just me and Ben, it was just me and Ben up there.
Yeah, when the guys started coming, so Carl Milam and some of the guys from down where he's at in Cambridge area and the county there, they left her and started coming up to us. And then you guys came up. That wasn't quite the end of her thing, but it was pretty close. It was the beginning of the end at that point. So what, now I have said in the past, and people that know me, that if you trained with me when I was at the police department, and you train with me now, you're surprised. You're waiting for the hammer to fall.
If you haven't, just go back and listen to Eric's retirement episode.
Yeah, right.
That's what I was about to say. Are we going to end up on a rant here again?
No.
Okay
we're not doing those anymore. We're not doing those anymore. No.
Okay. All right.
So
we don't do those anymore.
I don't know that I was ever mean to you. I might have been. I might be living in fantasy. I know I took to you pretty quickly because you could tell that you had been trying and you wanted to learn more about it. But feel free, say whatever, but tell the guys what it was like training under me from that 2014 until I left in 18.
Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I loved it. I was really good at figuring out when to be seen and when not to be seen. And, my big thing's kind of always been, I like being the dumbest guy in the room. So no matter what I know anyways, I'll just kind of, where you say, this whole series is about guys you don't know. I'd be lying if I said some of that's not calculated. I can do this job and not be out for everybody to see and not be hanging it out there, especially because you have no problem hanging out a lot of stuff. So I'm just like, yeah, Eric, you get them. And then I'll just do my own thing. But no, I was pretty good at navigating it, and just listening. So no, for the most part, I actually remember the first time you yelled at me. But for the most part, I wasn't the one getting the brunt of a lot of the stuff, but I didn't see it. Like the problem with, I would say, I don't think anybody disagree, but the problem with law enforcement in general is, you're sticking a bunch of type A guys into a room. Pride, ego is all over the place. So when you were getting on me, I knew that you were driving me to get better, not trying to crush me or hurt my feelings or hurt my dog's feelings or whatever it was. It just wasn't personal to me. So I think I could just handle it a little bit differently than, some of the other guys. I think there were guys out there that couldn't handle it. The big thing that I saw, and to go back, and this is why, where I jumped on that wagon, is to go back to these other dogs, or the other guy that I was with, and another guy that was at a local agency that was also with us. He had already graduated with his dog and everything. So he was already on the road when I got there, but their dogs were weak. So I watched, when it come down, they never should have been on the road in the first place. Single purpose, sure. Dual purpose, they're a liability. And I watched the dog that was with me. I watched what the handler had to go through when the dog wouldn't engage when I needed him to, and things like that. And when I got there, that was your big thing. So I watched you week after week try to build this dog, and you honestly build on something that dog was never gonna fight a human on a dark alley. It's not gonna happen. It's not in the cards for it. But I didn't watch you give up to the point where eventually you just looked at him and said, "Hey, we're going to continue to work this, but you have to know that this dog is not going to save you. You have to do what you have to do." So the whole, I guess your mantra at that point was, it was about the guys, right? You weren't worried about, you were worried about building the dog, but you cared about those guys. And even those guys that are out there struggling like that, week in and week out, pushing towards it. So any intensity that you had, any passion that you had for it, that's how I looked at it. I looked at it through, it was just passionate about what you were doing. So I was, like I said, I was pretty much on board at that part. Shut up, listen, put the suit on as much as possible, and have a fucking dog ready.
Yeah, have a fucking dog ready, buddy.
Have a fucking
it's
dog
a big
ready.
group, man. There's 20 dogs at a training, and
yeah,
next dog, and you look and there's no one ready. Are you kidding me? Yeah. Like, for me, maintenance training day is not
We begin
day.
this morning with...
What the fuck?
Well, I don't know. Maintenance training day is not a day to be just off the shift. It's a day to work. Come in, have fun. We're going to get 2 or 3 things done before lunch, have a team lunch, and then 2 or 3 things done afterwards. So everyone is tired. Guys are driving like CJ was driving an hour and a half to come up there. And I always felt for those guys, man, an obligation to give them what they got. Now, in CJ's defense, it was easy for him because Ramos was a great dog. Like, he definitely carried this dude. So,
100%.
But CJ
100%.
is one of those guys. So, like, he was talking about the type A personality, but he was even keeled, like, never really got angry. And if he did, it was hard to see. So what I started doing was sending guys that I was ready to kill. Hey, go over to where CJ is. And then CJ got stuck with a couple guys that I'm like, can you please help this rube? Like, before I duct tape him to the goalpost. But I never told on guys. I was always, I know I had an agency there whose sheriff or undersheriff maybe showed up one day to kind of inspect his car and check in on him. And I kicked the guy out. I said, don't ever come back here again.
That's always the best, when random dudes show up and you can tell they're cops and you're like, you lost? They're like,
so don't come here.
I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing here? Like, what's going on? And they're like, and sometimes they're looking for me and sometimes they're looking for Alicia or whatever. But that
guy was a complete fuck up, but he was my fuck up. I had to do, he wasn't a Canton guy. He was another agency. And CJ had brought him up to try to do something for this kid and help him out. But, ultimately my entire time as a trainer there, I only ever kicked out a couple guys from the group. I tried. We had this one guy come, this other dude brought him in. He worked at a hospital as a canine guy. This motherfucker shows up for training and he doesn't have not only does he not have a gun on, he drove in a cruiser without a gun. He doesn't have a trouser belt. So we're at a building. I remember we were at Sowers School. We're at Sowers and we're, going from room to room to room for detection real fast. Boom, boom, boom. Some blank rooms mixed in there. Hurry up. We got all these bam, bam. And he can't barely work his dog because he's got to pull his pants up. To keep pulling his pants up. I go, hey, bro, where's your fucking belt? And where's your gun? And he said, well, I came up here. I figured the Canton guys would have enough guns. I said, you're a fucking cop in a cruiser. And so I said, don't come up here without a belt again. And then I went to the guy who brought him, Mike, and I said, this fucking guy shows up here again without a fucking gun and a belt on. I'm kicking you out. And this motherfucker. Next week, dude, or 2 weeks later, he shows up. He's got a trouser belt on and his gun is in a gun belt and he's just carrying it. See, it was in his trunk. He got kicked out. And then the guy that CJ and I were talking about, he got kicked out because he was, telling his agency that he was coming up for training, but what he was doing was hiding his cruiser and just staying home. And eventually, I'm not going to tell nobody, but I don't want to be put in the get that phone call. Hey, is so and so here? No, I haven't seen him. Fuck. Now I feel like I just told on the dude, but it turns out they knew because they were checking his GPS, all kinds of bullshit. But yeah, that was my thing always, was for the guys. I hate supervisors. I made no bones about that. I am not a fan whatsoever. I've met a handful of strong supervisors. The rest are weak garbage in this industry. And my department was full of weak garbage. So I I used to do everything I could. I saved some of the guys' careers there. Not covered up. So I kind of covered up some stuff, took the blame for some shit, maybe did some stuff so that it didn't look like they did anything stupid, you know, that type of shit. Lied for why they weren't at training, why, all that type of stuff. So I would yell a lot back then, which is not healthy for me whatsoever. Like Ted said, go listen to my retirement episode. That did not go over well in a lot of places.
Nah, I sat across from you. We were fucking recorded it. As it was recording, I was like, God damn, are we going to fuck?
One of the lieutenants put it on the speaker system at the police department and played it on a loop in the admin section, because I talked nice about him and I badmouthed all those admins, and he just made them listen to it over and over and over and over. And then there would be part where I go, yeah, Mark, he's a good dude. And he would just laugh and smile at them. So, the cool thing about all this is, you know, in this canine world is really that is small because of your friendship with Franz. We brought Franz over for a decoy school, and I think he comes back now to PK9A almost every year. I think he was just there a few months ago. So that's really cool. Like, a cool little sidebar of that whole thing. And I got to say, that was the heyday, man, when you were there. That was the heyday of Police Canine Association and the brotherhood involved in there. Talk about when, and this to me brought us all together the most, was when Jethro got killed.
And even just to rewind a little bit back from that as well, you know, when I got there, it was, you know, you had, you know, Dave and Boss, you had Mike, like it was such a good group of guys that all, you know, including myself, that was like all fresh within the first year. So a lot of hungry guys. And then you had guys like Ryan, you know, who they're on their second dogs. Like, so we had some seniority there to kind of give us that direction. And, you know, the group of guys that's out there doing stuff on their own, not just every 2 weeks, you know, not just at training. So right off the rip, we were all super hungry together. And then we pushed forward, which led us to January 10th to 16th. Is that what it was? When Jethro got killed. And, you know, that was everything that we were working on at the time, came to light. Like, hey, this is, you know, we all know things are real, but, you know, that was real. I truly believe if you talk to anybody that's in our circle, we're in and close to Ryan during that situation, like, that bullet was not meant for Jethro, right? Why do you why are you going into robbing a grocery store with a gun? Right?
At 3 o'clock in the morning.
At 3, yeah, 100%. So that really, we were already in a really high gear at that point. Just, I think we had the right people, like a perfect storm. So right people at the right time. You throw that into it, and we were hungry. And then on top of that, the social media exploded. Like, there was a pretty good following before that. Absolutely exploded. So a lot of donations, things like that come in that really pushed all the extra training, all, you know, bringing different things in, sending everybody out to different trainings and stuff like that. Like, it just, I think it really was probably just the perfect storm of circumstance. And I mean, we stayed that way till even through when our dogs got older. Like, my favorite seminar we did was definitely the New England street tactics.
Oh yeah.
That was still, and that was later on in my career, you know, that was that 18, 19?
18, I think,
like
maybe.
18, yeah, probably 18. But, you know, it was always forward. We were always pushing each other. So
didn't Ramos get shot with a sim round in the eye? At that?
Tyler.
Yeah.
That's how I met Tyler.
Fuckers.
Tyler Falconer?
Yeah.
Yeah, that fucking fireman.
Fucker. Yeah. I talked to him yesterday.
Bastard.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tyler.
We were doing remember, Ted, I think that we were doing Brown Hole then, like our first iteration of Brown Hole.
Oh, we broke all the fucking fire doors and we had mattresses down in the hallway.
And there was another group doing where they were using sim rounds. And I think you even kind of protested a little bit. It was like, I don't know about this. And sure enough, man, bink. Gets shot in the corner of the eye with the thing, and that was it. We were done doing that shit. Yeah, and then
good scenario though. Bad, just
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, the scenario was
luck.
good. Just nobody's wearing doggles or whatever the hell they were called back then. So
Yeah.
those pre-rec specs, they were just called doggles. So yeah, then the Jethro thing happens. We got super tight after that. The money, it's unfortunate, but all of a sudden PK9A then had money, and money is power. And then we don't have to ask the agency for shit anymore. And then we can get the training that we want. We can get the equipment that we wanted. And we weren't trying to hoard money like a business. We were spending money.
Didn't some admin at Canton go into your bank and try and get access to the account because he said it was his money or some crazy shit?
Twice. 2 different police chiefs did that. So
they tried to rob a bank.
Yeah, they tried to order us to give them
fuck?
The first chief. He tried to order us. Well, he didn't order us. He made a comment to somebody that he was thinking about ordering us to give him all of our money. All the PK9 money. All of this is because there was this captain named Jack behind him who's a real low-life scumbag piece of shit. And that guy hated K9 and hated that we had our own money. And my entire time in K9 was dodging a minefield from this dumb piece of shit. And so he's behind the scenes in the captain's ear, like Grima Wormstone or whatever his name, Wormtongue in fucking Lord of the Rings, where he talked in their ear. They have money. They don't like you. That's your money, chief. Well, somebody, I think it was my sergeant and lieutenant, went to him and said, "Hey, dude, like you better watch where you're going with this money request." And at the time, PK9A didn't have that much, right? Maybe we had $20K in the bank. But we weren't given, that's not all Canton's money, So when I first got in, the Police Canine Association was called Canton Police Canine Association. So the chief let it slip that he was going to go after us because it says Canton Police Canine Association. That's my fucking money. So we immediately got it changed. Ryan Davis was the treasurer or a secretary, I think. Boom, we got the 501c3 name change immediately, Police Canine Association. So fast forward, Jethro's killed. We have a different chief, and he's got a different Grimer Wormtongue in his fucking ear. This guy named Charles, who's a fucking sociopath. And Charles is in his ear telling him, that's your money. That's your money. That's your money. Because all this Jethro money started coming in. And we talked about it on one of the podcasts about donations coming in. And that chief stole $30,000 or $40,000, $50,000 from us that he made us give him, but we had our own, money coming in. Charles, that lieutenant, or he was a sergeant at the time, I can't remember, was on the board of our credit union, the police canine or the police department's credit union, Canton Police and Firemen's Credit Union. He might have been the board president. I don't remember. He was a fucking weirdo. He'd show up in full SWAT gear with a drop leg holster to the meetings, like they were going to get attacked. Get the fuck out of here. So he got into our bank account through one of the employees. So there was never a record of Charles logging into our bank account, but this manager did. And my dad was on the board at the time. And I went to him. I said, "Who has access to these accounts? Blah, blah, blah." So Charles was so fucking stupid. He told the chief, he got how much money he had. He told the chief to the dollar how much money was in there. And when the chief flipped out on me at a meeting, he said to the dollar how much money we had in the bank. And I had just been there. So I knew. I was like, "Oh, how the fuck do you know that?" So I had a talk with the chief because he was a patrolman when I got hired. Him and I got along very well. He was definitely getting the wrong advice. So I pulled him aside after everybody was gone. I said, "Bruce, I'm going to tell you this right now. We will destroy your career over this money because there are 2 guys on the executive board of the association that are not Canton cops. They can say whatever the fuck they want about you. We will ruin your career over this money." And he backed off. And then we went to the board or to the credit union and we said, "We're going to sue you. We're going to sue Charles for getting in there. We're going to sue this manager for doing that. They kicked Charles out, and the manager got fired of the credit union board. And then we took all our money out and put it somewhere else. Removed it all out of there. It got really fucking goofy over that money. And then all the money the city had for the canine program, it was in a canine fund. It was supposed to be designated for like buying dogs and things like that, money that would set them up for the future. Fuckers spent it in one day on a car. We warned him not to fucking do it, and he bought a fucking cruiser and wiped out the account in one day. When he could have just left it in there and bought dogs for 5-6 years without a complaint. You know, a complaint from Jack, that piece of shit captain who was always like, these guys cost too much money. These guys cost too much. I don't know if you know this. I have a tattoo of a Grim Reaper on my thigh that is holding a Canton Police Department patch, and the patch is crumbling and burning. And the guy the Grim Reaper has captain's bars. Who the fuck do you think that was for?
I know now.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yes.
Holy shit.
And all them dudes, man, got through their careers and retired, never having gotten in any trouble. They all got some fucking jobs running like academies and stuff like that. I'm like, not all you dudes should have been fucking hung by your balls is what should have happened to those people. So anyways, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk to CJ about what led him to get out of law enforcement and get into the pet side of the business. He still does some decoying with me and everything like that, but he's locked in. He works with us at Ridgeside Canine. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about some dogs that he's been specializing in, and maybe even give a couple tips for some of you guys that are working with some shitty, like reactive dogs or aggressive dogs. And maybe you need help, man. You're like this one particular thing, and he's going to talk to you about that. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, it's me again, back with some more awesome sponsors. I want to talk a little bit about Ray Allen Canine Manufacturing. Who else in our industry allows us to come to them with ideas as handlers, as dog professionals, and say, you know what, I think I would like to make this, or wouldn't this be a good idea? And they will actually sit down with you and talk to you about your designs. I've got a collab with them on a muzzle, on a leash and a collar. They're amazing to work with. Their products are top notch. They're made in America, in Colorado, and we love Matt. So give them a holler, check them out on socials at Ray Allen, the letter K, the number 9, or visit them online at rayallen.com and use our discount code WDR10 RAY for 10% off. Guys, have you visited Dogtra lately? If you go to Dogtra, they have their new online portal, and it's really cool, very user-friendly. You don't have to call them and order them anymore. You can go to mydogtra.com, and they have everything there. You can set up an online profile. They keep your orders. They know what you've used. We use everything, their ball droppers and poppers. We use their e-collars, their 1900S hands-free for our officers, their Q and their 280 for our pet clients. We use all of their products all the time. Eric travels around and does seminars specific to Dogtra, so you can have him come in and teach a class on how to use it. Check them out, dogtra.com, and follow them on their socials. We love kinetic dog food. Ted has been using the large format. It makes excellent tracking treats. He uses it for teaching article indication. It's these huge nuggets of food that you can lay down, grab, put in your trainer's pouch. The quality is excellent. We love Debbie and Dave. We have a great relationship with them. They want to know you. They will talk to you about nutrition, about what your dog's needs are. They'll help get you set up. Their food is available everywhere. We've gotten it off of Chewy. You can buy it at stores. Please check them out. kineticdogfood.com. Your dog needs these nutrients, and they are really specific to our industry's needs. They have a full line of supplements now. Please check them out. We'll have some soon that we can give away. Go check them out. Follow them on their socials at Kinetic Dog Food. They'll really appreciate that.
All right, everybody, we are back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. Eric Stanbro and Ted Summers, as usual, with our friend CJ Byers here from Relentless K9 and Ridgeside K9, Ohio. So you're cruising along. Ramos is getting older. So it's funny. Towards the end of Ramos's life, he would come to stay with me when I had my kennel. If CJ went on vacation or went out of town, and he'd come stay with me, and still was every flipping time I boarded him, the first day he was shit in the kennel. Every time. And then never again. I think he'd flip his water one time on me maybe or something, just once, still let me know he still got some ass. And then he was so fucking deaf, dude. I'd have him out on the property because I could get him even with stim on the e-collar without even talking to him. You could get him to come back where I'm yelling, Ramos, Ramos, clapping hands. And you had to get it into a certain angle where you could hear a little bit. And then he'd turn to look. Oh, because otherwise dude would just keep walking. He would just try to go on. So let's talk about that. The end of the career and the shift.
Yeah. So just for the record, you did try to convince me that he was faking it there for a little while before you finally decided he was deaf.
I did.
I'm like, dude, I'm telling you, he can't hear me. You know,
Like,
and you're like, no, he's faking
open
it.
up Doritos bag and see if you.
He's faking
He'll
it.
listen to that. That's like now. Leck is blind in one eye. And my staff is like, he can't hear. I'm like, bullshit. Open that bag of chips. That motherfucker, he will hop up.
Yeah.
Be like, what you got? Old bones and all. So yeah. Tell us about the end of how the end of Ramos's career went.
Yeah. So I honestly I almost retired him on duty there for the last year, mainly a bite work, and just kind of used him break glass in case of emergency. The department at that point in time wasn't in great financial spot, so I kind of knew they would do another dog, but I knew it was going to be a while. So I had a great vet throughout that career. And when I noticed we were doing some bite work, he'd be limping around for a few days afterwards. I had talked to him, and he said, listen, he said, as long as they'll tolerate it, do as little as you can and keep him on the road. Cause I mean, these guys are, you guys know just as well as I do, they're professional athletes. So the second you take that job away, everything, physically just starts to fall apart, and all those old injuries and stuff like that start coming back up. So that last year I really was taking it easy. So still using his nose, but as far as anything else, pretty much just break glass in case of emergency as far as that goes. So I was losing some of the things that I really enjoyed about the job on top of the rest of the stuff anyway. So about that time, Eric had been on me for a while to come over and start training the pets on the side. And, I had a little bit of extra time and decided that was going to be a good way to supplement my income a little bit. Like many of you guys, I'm sure, in the same spot where, we weren't making much money. I think at the end, 2020, I think into 2020, 2021, I was up to $18 an hour at that point. So $18.50 maybe. So I started working the pets on the side. That was probably spring. I think July rolled around is when they told me they were going to retire him. We retired him. I put a 2 weeks notice in at that point. Well, actually I had to put a 2 month notice in at that point because we were just losing guys, smaller departments, lower paid departments. So when everybody across the country, we were the first place to start feeling it. So we had guys leaving left and right. And I had sergeant that was there my whole time, gets off duty, steps out of his car, has a massive heart attack. And so I'm looking at that. I'm working probably 60 hours a week, just trying to fill shifts because everybody's leaving. He's gone. I was like, listen, I'm going to give you guys as long as you need to get another body in here, and I'm gone. So I left. I started, so I was 3 months behind Ramos retiring, and I left and started the pet side full time.
Yeah. So that was nerve wracking for me. We've talked about this, I'm like, shit, man, now I bet I can do better than 18.50 an hour though. So, he was doing training out of his house. So he makes, money differently than just an hourly rate. But what I noticed with you was, and that's a big leap, man. I mean, it's nice because his wife has health insurance. She's a nurse. And so that's I'll be honest with you, and you probably have talked to people, Ted, like this. Health insurance is what keeps guys going back even way longer than they should, or miserable in their job because of the health insurance. They're so worried about it. And I get that. Health insurance is crazy.
In canine anyway, health insurance and retirement. In certain areas of the country, retirement is way more important. And then a lot of dudes don't want to leave the dog.
Well, yeah, I get that.
Like
for sure.
CJ saying, I mean, you were you said 3 months after Ramos, which you probably never would have done it if he was still like, if he had a couple of good years, you would have been like,
I'll wait.
It's dog. So, hey, admins, if you're listening, get them dogs. They won't quit.
They tried.
There you go.
They tried.
They did. That's right.
It was no. And then, like I said, I gave him plenty of time because I didn't want to screw the guys that I was working with. You know what I mean? We were already working a ton just to keep shifts covered. So, I ended up giving them, like I said, 2 months basically. So it probably took 2 weeks after I said that. They're like, okay, let's talk to counsel. We're going to get you a dog. And I was like, no, I'm good. I was committed at that point. It's not a hard, it's a really hard decision to make, but once I made it, I didn't really look back at that point. I think at one point, Eric, you'd said like being half in is not a good idea. Like you need to go full at it. Or like you said, most trainers last about 3 years, and then they're like, okay, that's enough. And they're out. And I get it. It's tough, but at times, but at the same time, I regret nothing. So,
yeah. And I say this at my seminars all the time when I'm talking to guys. I go, you guys are over here living in your uniform, chasing overtime and extra jobs. Cause if you're at the 1850 mark, you can barely survive on that. You got to, you're living in the uniform. That's why I try to tell them, I go, start part-time, man, get one dog, do a board and train, sit down, make the same amount of money that you did, without, having to be in that uniform and live in the uniform. But once you get going, there's real money in pet dogs. Plus you don't have to ask anybody for vacation time or comp time. You just got to block it off in your books. That's it. That's the one thing first thing I noticed about CJ is he starts rocking, and then he looks so much better because him and his old lady could go on vacation. They're shorthanded at his department. There was no extra time off, and guys are quitting. Well, there goes that fucking vacation. Guys go, well, there goes that comp time. So then you're using sick time, or you're actually sick because you're working so much. So talk about, if any, or what traits you took as a canine handler, and you were helping with training at that point. What did you take into the pet side?
I mean, that's still probably to this day is, I'm always going to, my knowledge is always going to grow. I'm not going to try to compare myself to other trainers or anything like that, but any inadequacy that I have in my knowledge of dogs, that's been from day one. I'm just going to, I'm going to put the work in. So over time, putting that work in, and what I found out with dog training too, when I flipped over, is as far as how much you're going to make is how much do you want to work? It really is. Which that can be a little dangerous too. I mean, like you said, eventually the vacations started popping up. I kind of figured it out, found a healthy balance. But, at first, like when I was back at the PD, you talked about the overtime. It was probably the last 3 years, probably 17, 18, 19. My area had that huge gas and oil boom. So we get, extra details pretty much nonstop, like 24 hours a day. You can go just start escorting oversized loads and things like that. There was about 3 years there where and I was working either a 6 to 2 or a 7 to 3, a split shift at that time, where I would show up I would go get off work at 2 or 3 a.m. Have to show up. I'd be escorting loads from 5 a.m. to, 4 o'clock. And then how they let me do, I just think nobody was paying attention because it couldn't have been safe. And I did that for years. I'd get a break in the winter when they'd stop escorting the loads, but, and I can could have taken on one dog on the side and actually, maybe slept a little bit, but I'm pretty sure I aged myself about 10 years and 3. So,
yeah. So what did you, I always tell guys, if you want to become a better police dog handler and trainers, to train pet dogs. What did 100%. You find gave you as a canine handler an advantage on the pet side?
Leash skills. Ultimately, ultimately, and patience is probably a big thing too. At first it's a lot of just getting the reps in, because what's hard about the pets is you're used to working drive, right? Drive, you would think, I guess, for the outside looking in, the civilian would look in and say that, well, police dog training would be much harder. That's, I would say, as far from the truth as it possibly is, because you take that drive and you can overcome so many issues. Now you take something small, like I think one of my first dogs that you guys sent me was like a Caton de Tulier, which, look it up because I didn't know what it was back then either. It's 12 pounds, and I'm looking at it like the first time I pop a little correction, her front feet come off the ground. I was like, oh, that's what I was trying to do. So I mean, you got to figure out how to get that skill. That skill's in that dog as well. So problem solving is different things. Figure out what motivates these dogs that aren't bred to be motivated for the most part.
Yeah, it's tough. I always tell people, you sure learn what pressure means, because with these scaredy little pet dogs, pressure is what works. Overcoming leash pressure or e-collar pressure. When the police dogs are easier in the fact that they're motivated by ball, toy, food, and want the
we
desire.
Literally select them based on their willingness to work.
Yeah. So
like that's what everyone says. Like CJ just said, like, oh, training police dogs is supposed to be hard. I'm like, shit. Not near as challenging as, the thing that's most challenging about it is doing the same shit over and over again. And, there are like idiosyncrasies in there. Like not everything works with a dog the same way, but it's the same adage that I tell people, like, you could just bring me any German Shepherd or Malinois. I can't turn them into a police dog. Like, I'm a good police dog trainer, but I can't do that because they're not genetically predisposed for it. So we get this mishmash of whatever comes in on the pet side, and the problems are all over the place. And then you've got to figure out what motivates the dog. And sometimes what motivates the dog is completely antisocial bullshit that we can't have them doing, or what motivates them is to be away from people. And you're like, well, that didn't work either. So you're like, bro, how do we like come to an understanding here? But 100%.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, the rescues, that spay and neuter dog, like neuter male dogs, they rescue a dog that's 12 weeks old and they neuter it. And it's like, oh man, I tell people, you're going to have a problem with this dog. But those are little things that we don't get. We don't understand in the canine world. So what happens to CJ is, we have a facility and I have trainers at the facility, and I have some trainers that are working out of their house. In the beginning, were we still Van Ness when you came, or Ridgeside?
We were just switching. So when I started, we were still Van Ness, but I think by the time I took my first dog, we were switched.
I think we had a few trainers then at that point. Maybe me, you, Amanda, and Sarah, and a couple like rep trainers that we brought up through the system. But what happens is once you start training dogs, pet dogs, is you're not going to be able to stay with just the dogs that pull on the leash, jump on people, counter surf, eat laundry, whatever. Eventually, you're going to start getting the dogs that are leash reactive. And we as canine handlers don't know that we have leash reactive dogs in canine. We just think they're psychos, right? I've talked about all the time, the dog that everyone has to pin against the wall when you're walking in to do detection because he might launch out at the end of the leash when he's actually not aggressive. It's more of a fear-based type thing. And guys don't want to understand that.
It's always interesting because you say that, but at every HRD, you and I are the ones on a wall. And they're like, oh, he's social. I'm like, you know how many times I've been bit by social police dogs? Like, all of them.
It could be right in the wiener, too, man. It's like right there. So, so once you start doing those, they're hard, right? Those dogs are hard. Leash reactive dogs are difficult. At times, not everything. There's not like a formula that works. Sometimes you got to get tricky. Sometimes you got to consult with people. But at least for me, when you work for me, once you get really good at the 3-weekers, we call them, the behavioral mods, you're fucked, because you then become that guy. Every once in a while, CJ will call us and he'll be like, "Hey, can I get just like a regular dog?" And I'm like, bro, there is no regular dogs anymore. And then once you start on your social media promoting, like maybe starting a before and after stuff, everyone, that's all they're calling you. And we go through weird periods where everyone calling us needs behavior modification.
Yeah. We're going through that right now because we don't say no. Like, right. You want to bring me a dog? I'll fix it. Or we will. And we don't say no. I don't say no. But I also don't take advice from owners. Yeah. So I don't let them tell me how to do the job. But yeah, you got a behavioral mod that's not a genetic thing or a health thing. 100%. Like if you want me to if you want me to train a whippet not to chase rabbits or pit bulls not to kill babies, like we have to have a talk. But like if it's just normal errant, classically conditioned bullshit, then we can fix it. Like 100%. Like right now we got a call a day. A dog that we trained, they recently had a baby. Now the dog is trying to attack the baby. I'm like, that's not genetic. It's a fucking rescue pit. There's not a pit bull. It's some kind of, I don't know what it is. It's like rescue beagle looking thing. But he 100% he'll bite you. But obviously, they're worried. But the ding with these people, and they're not going to listen to this, so I don't give a shit. But they're soft as shit. They're soft as room temperature butter, and they will not correct this dog. And because he's been in there, and he'll fuck with me once, and now we got to the point where we just look at him. You're like, hey, and he's like, yeah, all right, I'm good. But so it becomes this like we don't say no. Right. We'll take anything for the most part, but then you end up putting yourself in a corner, which we can charge a premium for because nobody else does it when I do. But I mean, it becomes annoying. It's like we have, right when this class started, we were just ending a cycle where I had 19 fucking dog reactive or leash reactive or dog and leash reactive dogs in the kennel at the same time. And it sucked. Mm-hmm. It was awful. My poor trainers were like, they said the same thing like CJ said. They're like, can we get some puppy preps? Can I get like a week-long puppy prep with like a golden retriever that just wants to be petted?
I just did a golden retriever that bites like 3 weeks ago. So,
send them to me. I'll turn them into a drug dog. That's what I do with Maggie.
Yeah, there it is.
So, one of the things that CJ learned from the police work is the skill of trying to avoid getting bit. Seeing that load, seeing the things that happen that just come from time around fucking biting dogs. And, you're around handlers and some guys are careless, they're like, whap, oh shit, so what has happened now is CJ is, I only have 3 outside trainers now that, and all 3 of them, that's the kind of dogs they get are those shitty dogs. All 3 of them were cops or one of them still is Garber's, still is a cop. He does 1, maybe 2 at a time. The other guy, Damon's running an academy. So he's 1 at a time and CJ's 3 or 4. So what happens is, and I say this I just told somebody this yesterday on the phone. These guys are so good at this stuff now that they are really changing lives for people, changing owners' lives, changing dogs' lives, and have surpassed me in the ability to do it just through sheer, the amount of times they've done it and had to get creative. So what I end up doing is just CJ will bring a dog up for me to put an extra set of eyes on. Maybe I see something, from that 30-foot view overhead. Maybe I'll see something a little bit different, but I always defer to guys like him. So talk about, give somebody like a couple things that are not go-tos that you try to maybe with a dog aggressive or a leash reactive dog, or even a couple little tricks that you've come up with that, this works pretty good. Something for their toolbox. Yeah.
So the biggest thing I got to say, don't get in a hurry. And you talked about being good at not getting bit. Don't get in a hurry. When we're doing these trainings, we say, I think if you look at it, it's listed 3 to 4 weeks. I mean, there's been quite a few times where I've extended past that. Right. And it's usually, I think, honestly, the most important work comes, especially if you're talking about the fear. If anything is fear related, and I'm not talking about just a little bit of lack of confidence. Some of these dogs I get are, they're so fearful that when you go for them, they're going to.
Shit that they shouldn't be scared of either.
Yeah, it's everything. It's just life. They're scared to live.
I mean, it's bad. But
the furnace kicked on. Whoa.
Yeah.
Whatever.
And I take my time with them. You can teach so much through a leash. So I use I use quotes that I get off other trainers all the time. I think everybody does. But the cave paintings of leashes.
Oh, yeah.
So in almost every one of my go homes.
It's such a good idea. We invented it before the wheel.
I said that today. I said that today.
Yeah. But things like that, you have to listen to what you're saying yourself when you're giving these clients. Like, if it takes you 3 or 4 days to be able to not put a ton of pressure, and I mean physical pressure on the dog, trying to get them to what you want to do, and just lead them around with the leash. Like, lead them around with the leash, keep them at a down beside you, just let them hang out. And I won't force a down on a dog in the first few days if you don't need to. Like, don't go at the fight. They've been fighting in one way or another, whether it's fear or aggression, however old they are, their whole life. So I'm going to bring you into a strange environment and immediately start to throw a bunch of pressure on you. It's a recipe for getting bit. I mean, it really is. Now, eventually there are dogs, you're still going to have to run that risk when you push them through that, but just taking the first 3 or 4 days and just meeting the dog's needs, food, water, shelter, pack fulfillment, not putting pressure on the dogs. Don't talk to the dog. I don't say anything. By the time you hit day 4, they're like, all of a sudden they're nudging you. Like, hey, nobody's pet me in 4 days. Like, cause these are pets. And a lot of it, like you said, it's the owners, right? They've created a lot of these problems with a lot of behavior mods. So the dog usually does like affection in that. So when you see them start to engage with you, they're ready at that point. So I see a lot of trainers that start to mess with some of these dogs, and they're just trying to throw too much at the dog before they're ready. Maybe it's even just a pet, like the dog can't receive it. So if they're not taking food, which fear they almost never do, if they're not taking food, all you have is that leash pressure.
They won't go to the bathroom either. Like, they won't poop for 4 days.
A lot of them will do it when you try to get them out of a crate, unfortunately.
Pro tip.
I just went, yeah. There's no pro tip. Just have extra crates sitting around. You kind of deal with it for a little while. But so, Ted, you were talking a little bit too about the like some of the genetic cases. Are you doing those as well? Just out of curiosity. So
typically how I do this, right, is when somebody comes in, well, our staff or whoever is talking to them, as we say, look, all these 99% of behavioral problems that pet people have fall into 3 categories. The first is some sort of genetic predisposition, right? So like I said, whippets chasing rabbits and pit bulls killing babies, and, like stuff that they're genetically predisposed to do anyway. And I kind of warn them, I'm like, look, this is not really going to be a training thing. It's going to be more of a management thing. We're, like, no matter how good of trainers we are, we cannot out-train genetics. We just can't do it, right? And the example I give to this, and I say, how many people do you know that play basketball in high school? And they're like, oh, a ton. I'm like, how many of those people made it to the NBA? And they look at me, I'm like, we know that number to the number, by the way. I was like, so that's with police dogs too. So just because he's a German Shepherd doesn't mean obviously he's going to be the other categories, or it's classically conditioned. And I say this to them, right? I say, look, there isn't a single dog born knowing that the doorbell means that somebody's on the other side of the door. They're not born knowing that the Amazon truck has a certain sound. Like, they're not born knowing. They're classically conditioned. And I don't usually say, I like to try to keep all the sciencey fucking conditioning bullshit out of the conversation with clients. But I'm like, they've learned that. So if they've been conditioned to do it, they can be unconditioned to do it, which is different than a genetic problem. And the other is for example, I got a police dog in that was from a department down south, and he came from a super well-known vendor, but he kept fucking tagging the handler. And I'm like, what? And this dog's super sweet little Malinois. I'm like, what is with this dog? Like, what is his deal? Right? Because, I mean, he wasn't weird with me. Like, I could break him off a ball. I could break him off a toy. I could break him off a suit. Whatever. We did a super thin sleep bite. I could break this dog off anything. He wouldn't redirect. He wouldn't do shit. So I had him out testing one day, and I mean, like, more than a normal Malinois. Like, he smashed his fucking head into the wall. Like, I thought he knocked himself out. I'm like, yo, what's the deal? So, and I noticed he was kind of like, he wasn't dizzy, but he was acting kind of weird. So Alicia spent $2,000 at I didn't realize there was these people, but like a vet that specializes in eyes. And this dog was born with like a detached cornea. Yeah. So this handler aggression And so this guy was right-handed, so the dog heeled on the left side. The dog's right eye is the one that's bad, so it's the one next to the leg. And they would put a pinch on this dog and fucking reef on him, and he wouldn't see. He had no peripheral vision, so he didn't realize that a correction was coming, and just he would get lit up, and they're like, "What the fuck?" And he would turn and redirect, be like, "Yo," and they didn't understand that, and which they didn't know either. It's not their. I 100%. This, you don't buy a police dog thinking the motherfucker's half blind. And there's nothing you look for. I mean, well, you do, but I mean, it's certainly something I would have guessed. But yeah, so the problems generally fall into one of those three categories. There is one other one that I can kind of think about that doesn't, but it's so rare I can fucking deal with it. But so when we do that, right, and I say like, this is a behavioral problem, or this is a genetic problem, or it's a learned problem, or it's a genetic problem, and this is how we're going to fix it. And clients are like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. I'm like, okay, well. And my staff is hilarious because when they make me talk to them, they're like, you low-key insult clients. Because I tell them, I literally say, look, if this is a conditioning problem, right? Like the dog has learned to do this behavior. And they're like, okay, they accept that. I'm like, the only thing we need to be good dog trainers is continually reinforcing or punishing behaviors that we want or don't want. That's it. Like, that's all it is, right? So it's capturing the behavior and then whatever, punish or whatever we're going to do. And I said, but the thing that's super important about that is consistency over time. So it's not generally a singular learning event. And they nod and they look at me. They're like, oh, that makes a ton of sense. And I'm like, this dog is committed to shitty behavior that is not genetic, which means that you're a pretty good dog trainer already. And they're like, oh my God, that makes so much sense. And all my trainers are in the room. Their eyes get super big. And they're like, holy shit, you just insulted this person. I'm like, but what we can do is deprogram this dog or reprogram or however we're going to do it. And then teach you how to reinforce the behaviors you want. And they're like, oh, that makes so much sense. I'm like, I know. Yeah. I can stand there and low-key insult people. They're giving us a bunch of money. I'm like, it's your fault. But it sounds better than being like, it's your fault, you're fucking stupid. And then turning on and watch out, which is what I want to do. But I don't do that, which is why I'm not allowed to talk to pet clients. But
so that's a good point too. As far as when you're talking about a lot of the behavioral modification stuff, I would say, I mean, Eric, you can chime in on this one. I would say 90% probably it's mostly made, right? It's man-made. It's over coddling the dog, whatever it is that's starting to cause all the reactivity, possessive issues, dog reactivity, human reactivity, whatever it is. And what I find is probably more important. It becomes, especially once you start repping this, yes, you have to stop outside the box with a lot of stuff, but it becomes easier for us, right, to deal with the dogs. It's harder to deal with the people. So I find to be a teacher being the hardest part of all that. But the niche that kind of I've got into is kind of inspiring people and starting them down a path of understanding how the dog behaves. Eric has a go home video that I love it because Eric's Eric, very blunt, very to the point in it. And he's like, your dog does not love you. And you talk about pet owners, like really just being like, well, that wasn't nice, but that gives me an opportunity to talk about what they do. So I'm constantly, one of the things I use all the time is I'm really explaining, I'll go back to my working relationship with Ramos. And, that didn't come from me with the slider open. Obviously I knew day one, well, maybe not day one, but as soon as I met Eric, I knew to keep the slider closed. But it didn't come from me petting on the dog or hanging out in my off time with the dog and just sitting there treating him like a pet. It came from that you and I against the world mentality. And what I know now is that you and I against the world mentality is all the affection for a dog. You're so in line with what they are as a dog and what their natural instincts are. And I try to use that and explain that to people in a way that they understand it, so that they can see that, okay, sitting on the couch, for 8 hours and just sitting here petting a German Shepherd, so that the next time the doorbell goes off, they're going to go bite the guy that comes through the door, right? Because they see themselves as an equal at that point because they're a litter mate. So inspiring them to understand it in the right way and want to do it and want to do the training, I think, is probably the most important thing, right? We can all, any dog trainers can teach a dog to sit, but learn to teach, right? Teach and inspire, because that's what's gonna make them successful 2 years after training, is if they understand and they know what and why they're doing it.
Yeah, and it's tough. Getting people to change their lifestyle when it comes to their dog or what they grew up knowing is tough. Especially since if they've had a dog where you can sit on the couch and pet that dog for 10 years and the dog was never a problem. Now they get this dog and the dog is fearful, leash reactive, all those other things, which are caused a huge part of that by being on the furniture. And it's tough to get them. But it's tough even in police dog guys to get police dog guys to stop doing certain things. The only way you're able to get them to stop is if they're a captive audience where, listen, you're going to lose your position. We're taking the dog. One more time I find out this dog's sleeping in your bed with you, you're out, gone. So that's the only way you can get some of those guys to stop. That's one of the big things at my seminars that I teach is all this stuff that we've learned through pet dogs and everything. That's still, guys, got to understand, you still have a dog. Dogs learn the same. All dogs, they're very much the same. Your dog is a little bit more motivated to do all the fun shit, but you can cause all the anxiety the same way. You can cause all the reactivity and all the issues with the dog the same way. My dog's a badass canine, really, because he's launching at the end of the leash because he's afraid and he doesn't trust you to fucking handle it. Right? It's no different than a reactive fucking doodle or Beeble or whatever the hell, that we're training. So getting you really gotta, my goal, man, a lot of times on these go homes with some of the owners, when I was doing a lot of them, was try to see if I can't get them to cry. Like, I can get in those heartstrings, buddy. I can do it, man. I can really make them understand how much this dog relies on them, how important their leadership skills are for that dog. And I tell them, I say, your dog doesn't even know. When you get a dog, police dog or pet dog, they don't even know the life that I'm offering them yet. And once they realize what I'm offering them, which is rules and guidance and freedom that is taught through rules and guidance and gives them a little bit of freedom to fail even a little bit without constant worry of punishment, man, they will fucking do whatever you ask them to do with fervor. Like they're flying into command because you made things perfectly clear, not through just the fear all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, as this conversation, as CJ was talking, I was kind of thinking about like how, like, the parallels here. One, I'm not allowed to talk to pet clients because I talk to them like cops. Not good. But
I'll throw a cuss word here. I got to be careful.
I do that too. But I had, like CJ just said, something you're not supposed to. Yeah, I mean, and it was some woman who swore up and down that her dog loved her, and I got sick of hearing it. I was like, if you died, nobody found you for 3 days, he'd eat you. And the look on her face, and then Alicia was absolutely terrified, mortified. She's like, you cannot fucking say that to people. I'm like, I can, because it's true. So what do you guys find? Like, one of the things that I kind of really impress on my trainers, and I see this in the police world, and I see this in the pet side too. I don't like to send my dogs home. Like, I want them to go home because they get e-collars and all that kind of stuff, but they're not trainers. Like, I get that. They're fucking pet people. They're pet clients. And same thing with my canine handlers. Like, they're not trainers. They're fucking canine handlers. They need to handle the dog, not train him. And I kind of really resist this urge, and I don't know where it comes from, but I see a lot of guys on social media, both on the pet side and the law enforcement side, trying to create more trainers. And like, when somebody brings me their dog to train, they're not looking to be they're not trying to take my place as a dog trainer. They're like, dude, I just want to live with my dog and not have him bite my neighbor and bark at the door and shut up when I tell him. Like, I don't want to learn to do this multiple times. How do you guys deal with that? You just make it I back up and I just make it as clear as possible. I don't use any like sciencey language or jargon. I don't use any of that shit. I just talk to people very plainly. And like CJ, you were saying, you have to the learning to do that is a skill that's not really taught, because when cops are taught to talk to people, that is not one of the skills that they use to teach people, because then they have to detrain everybody so that you have to train de-escalation language now. So it's this whole other aspect. You're like, I just spent a year learning to yell at people, which Eric studied extra for. And Did they ever teach you de-escalation tactics, Eric?
I think I was sick that day.
Yeah, Mr. fucking forward aggression solves problems.
Yeah. If you don't like
Sorry.
it, do something about it, right?
So, how do you
I
guys
just
deal
said
with
that the other day. No, it depends. Honestly, it depends. I'll take the opportunity. If I get a client that's really, really into the process, I'll take the opportunity to really teach them at least maybe to a rep style trainer, at least to where they can understand what pressure means and things like that. Because honestly, so we'll back, I guarantee my training for the life of the dogs. And when they're into it and they will, and they learn the process with it, it saves me work down the road, right? It saves me from getting that call in 6 months and like, hey, they're, jumping on all our guests. But I do agree with what you said as far as most people, and this was a hard for me to switch over to, a hard mindset. Most people that are sending you your pet, they just want a pet that they can enjoy. That's not tearing up the trash. That's not jumping on all the guests. It's not running around being a complete jerk all the time. They don't want to be yelling and they don't want to be screaming. So when you offer them some of the tone stuff that we do and the things like that, you give them really all they're looking for. They're not wanting a sport level heel. And that took me quite a few dogs to get used to, because I was training for a certain level that I was used to, making things look super pretty. And then I'd see the dog 2 months later at a refresher or something like that. And every dog was like, well, what did you do? I put all that work into it. What did you do to it? Once I figured out what people really want, is when things started to get a lot better, right? Because then I started focusing on, let's behave, right? Let's correct the bad behaviors, get them to stop, so that we can sit here and enjoy our dog.
That's what I remind my trainers, my pet trainers. I'm like, heel or recall does not mean come back and get in a heel position. It means get within arm's length of me so I can put a leash on you if I have to. And that's what people want. They want to be able to go to the lake. They want to go to the nature trails and let the dog off leash. And they want to be able to call him back when they want him. That's it. That's what they want. It's not fucking rocket science. Like, I had a chick that brought me a husky. I call it the Starbucks doctrine. She dead ass buys a sled dog. And of course, she lives in an area of Tulsa that's got a ton of money, and she rolls up with this huge husky in the back of a Range Rover. So I already know what I'm dealing with, and gets out in huge Christian, like Louis Vuitton heels. And I'm like, oh, here we go. She's like, I just want this dog to not pull me so I can she dead ass said, I want to take selfies at Starbucks. I'm like, okay. And I was like, this is a sled dog. And she looked at me, and it came with a harness. And I was like, maybe move faster. Yeah, move faster and he won't fucking pull you. Like, they're made to pull heavy shit. Don't be heavy shit. And she looked at me, and Alicia's like, he's our police trainer. He's going back inside. And so I just turned around and walked off. But that's all she wanted. That's it. She didn't give a shit. That dog was an asshole too. He would fucking bite you. He would square up on people, and she did not know. Didn't care. So we fixed that too. But the Starbucks doctrine. I tell them, I was like, they just want the dog to not pull. They want to take fucking selfies at Starbucks and not have it yanked out of their hand. That's it. I'll
say this one thing that we started doing, and it wasn't right away. Aaron Taylor, actually, we started talking to him about it, was, so we send home, so we send these owners like an electronic flip book. We send them paperwork. We send them the video link that CJ was talking about, me telling them their dog doesn't love them, and a bunch of other stuff. And then they come to the thing and we work the dog and everything. But I think probably the most important thing that we started adding in for anybody who learns whatever way is we role play. The role playing where the person is the dog and we're running the remote. Or it's like the version of the sound box, but they can actually feel it. And then we have them run the remote and we're the dog. And CJ has a great way of teaching them how to keep their dog on place, and where he can get a human being with reason and logic to go from across the room onto place without saying anything to him, just by hitting stim in the middle of a conversation with somebody else. So I have found you kind of feel stupid at times and kind of feel dumb, but it's 15, 20 minutes that I think really, I don't care if you're a doer, a reader, or a watcher, or however it is you learn, the role playing seems to work for just about everybody.
Yeah. That you've seen that thing, that meme, or the meme, it's like a thing on Instagram where it was like, if actual parks were like dog parks, and they have human beings rolling up and acting like dogs.
Oh, really?
Oh,
I have to look it up.
It's brilliant. I'll send it to you. But that, I mean, we do some of that. We'll do that. Definitely helps, right? So, and then there's the issue of like, oh, he only does it when you're not around, or he only does it at home, which I've seen that shit a ton too. But take a break.
Yeah, we'll take a break. When we get back, we're going to talk about using then your skill and knowledge as a working dog trainer to expand. Here's the thing, guys. Well, we'll talk about it when we get back. So we'll go ahead and take a break. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Please check out our friends Jason and Aaron Perguson at Highland Police K9. If you guys are interested in going to school, if you've come out of the military, you can use your GI Bill to go through their school. They have a pet training school. They have a police training school. They have online courses that you guys can take, such as their canine supervisor course. You guys can really take that as far as you want with them. They are a veritable fountain of knowledge when it comes to canine. They're located in North Carolina. They're always accessible, always available, and we've had such a long relationship with them. I cannot say enough good about them. So please check them out. If you go to Tactical Police Canine Training, go to their online programs, check them out. Use the discount code NARC for 20% off any of their online courses. Guys, that will help you. It'll help you make headway in this industry. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of times when we're talking about dog kennels and their construction, like you don't know where to start. What do I do? What do I add? I need to weatherproof this, waterproof this, pee-proof this. If you guys have checked out Horizon Structures lately, it's unbelievable. They literally have everything that you could possibly need. They can build your kennel with as many holes as you want in it, and they can drive it out to you, set it on your pad, hook it up, and you can move dogs in it immediately, from mild to wild, from one kennel all the way up, from the tiniest of pet runs to the hardest of working dogs. If you can dream it, they can build it. Go ahead and check them out at horizonstructures.com. Go specifically to their working dog area. It's commercial-dog-kennels. Give them a call, 888-447-4337. And of course, check them out on their socials at Horizon Structures, and they will hook you guys up. American aluminum has been such an asset to us. Our officers have their canine inserts. They have organizational lockers for the back of your patrol vehicle. They literally have just now put out an amazing heat system and alarm that integrates with their canine insert. Guys, they do it all. Give them a call. Check them out. It is high quality. It's made here in America. If you go to Easy Rider online, check them out, or give them an email at quotes@AAA-mail.com, or give them a phone call, 800-277-0869, and check them out. We also want to send a huge shout out. He recently passed away. Rest in peace, Brother Deeg. Thank you for our music. Thank you for the permission to use it. We really appreciate it, and we hope that you're doing well on the other side. Thank you guys for listening.
All right, everybody, we're back. Working Dog Radio, broadcasting the bite. Eric Stanbro, Ted Summers, your two usual hosts with our buddy CJ Byers from over here with me. He's actually, here's a fun fact. I am in one room at the fun house, and CJ is behind me in the kitchen where my Barney Fife signed picture is.
I see that behind him. I was going to ask, but
we couldn't be in the same. I got that back, shit, man, like 98, 99 maybe. We couldn't be in the same room. It was, my microphone was picking him up and it was echoing, so we had to be in opposite rooms. This is, part one of our series of guys you may not know in this world and what they can bring and offer. And every episode is not going to be like this, where you were a police dog trainer and you went to be a pet dog. We might just stick with guys that stayed in police work and got better through, through osmosis, through training. So here's the thing with dogs, with police dogs, with pet dogs, the whole thing. There's a pretty high level of burnout. Like you can get burned out pretty good. We've had trainers that just got burned out and it didn't work, and they had to leave. Or like CJ mentioned in the beginning, I always say there's like a 3-year window when you get into dogs. After 3 years, you're either going to quit or you're going to push forward. But even then, when you're doing pets, and especially board and train style, you got 24 hours a day, dogs there all the time. So you can get burned out. But there's ways around that to still have fun with dogs. So CJ recently started venturing into a very unfamiliar territory, which I thought it was great. And I think this all originally started from a pet client, maybe that you needed to get some knowledge on. Tell how you've been spending your spare time lately.
Yeah, so so I decided to get into the stock dog industry a little bit, but not as a trainer, as just a handler, personal side. So so far I've done 3 different trials now. I've been to Virginia a couple times and Tennessee. It's a whole different animal. I mean, I'm 100% back to being the dumbest guy in the room, but it is interesting to see how the all dogs learn pressure one way or another. Every version of training has its own version of pressure. Some of the stock dog stuff it's interesting to watch too, because I see a lot of what I saw in K9 10 years ago. I think maybe the social media is probably a little bit more behind as far as trainers connecting and things like that with it. But so far it's going pretty good. It's fun. I ended up buying a border collie. So
Jesus,
now I'm
two of my trainers have border collies, and they do that. And Lisa and Bailey, one's named Sprite. She just competed at the World Championships with that dog, with 2 of her dogs, the dock diving. But she does herding with it. And then Lisa just got, what's that dog's name? Crow. It's a little one. But yeah, that shit. Watching those dudes do that's some seriously impressive work. And most of the time there's no real e-collars on them, and watching them do it is, I mean, I'm like, all right, how did you do that? Because as me, like being the dumbest guy in the room, because I'm watching, I'm like, I'm never going to fucking do this, but I could use that. I could use that. How'd you do that?
It's tough. And so the e-collar in that industry is very, very taboo still. I mean, if they're using it, they're not talking about it. There are some guys that somewhat openly use it, but they're not talking about it enough to understand even.
Why is it taboo? It's definitely not from the same direction that the Force Free people are from. That I can tell you.
I mean, that's some of it. I mean, they really do. They truly believe in it. And I think that it was at some point, or it's passed on information from way back when, where they truly believe that it'll just shut the dog down. Right. So I assume it's very heavy handed when they do, and when they use it and things like that. Well, yeah,
because I've seen hunting dog trainers train. And if you ever watched a forced retrieve on, like, them train a forced retrieve with or without an e-collar, is the term force is used liberally. Man, it's brutal.
Explain to people what it is, what stock dog is.
So there's a couple, it's herding, right? There's all kinds of different levels you can get into as far as, I mean, I'm pretty sure that you can go herd ducks in a competition.
I saw a video of them doing that where they separated the black ones from the white ones.
Wow. Yeah.
The dogs did. Yep. I was shocked. I was like, what?
Yeah, but sheep, you can get into these sheep trials and things like that. I've been doing cattle. We'll go out there. I'll get on the course. You'll have different obstacles. They'll cut cattle loose. And the other big thing to note about it's not just you and the dog, right? So there's 3 or 5 other living, breathing brains on there trying to do what they want to do. So, I mean, it's definitely a learning curve. I obviously did the same thing I did kind of with Canine. I started reaching out. Started reaching out to as many people as I can and learn as many different ways as I can. I got hooked up with a guy, luckily, that's pretty local to me, with Jake Graham from Graham Livestock. He's been he's been running. He's relatively new. He's been running a dog for maybe like 3 years, and now that I have one, I'm starting to bring him up, but he's not ready to trial yet. So fortunate enough that one day Jake was like, "Hey, you can run my dog Grizz. So if you want to," I was like, "I'm in," because he's in a different class. There's different classes when you get there. I'm a novice, obviously, which is, the lowest. So he's up in intermediate. So they allow you to run the dog. So I'm at least getting some experience that way and figuring it out. And then I got hooked up with a guy named Josh Yarber from Diamond Y. He's out of Cynthiana, Kentucky. Look, and he's been great. Like, so they let me kind of bother them and figure out how he's training, because Josh starts dogs from green, trains clients' dogs, things like that. He's into it a little bit further than Jake is, and because Jake's really just doing it for a hobby, for a little side hustle, whereas Josh is doing it a little bit more for a career. So I go down there every couple of weeks, learn from him, end up buying a dog from him as well to start kind of bringing up through, and it's been pretty cool. You'd think that I would want to take a break from dogs and not go back to dogs, but here I am standing in a cow field, chasing around with a border collie.
Don't start wearing a cowboy hat.
Don't sleep. I'll tell you
I'll
what.
send you one. We got a bunch here.
Yeah, I was sleeping on the border collies, man. They're good dogs.
They're cool.
Yeah,
they're so much easier to deal with than some of these other working dogs. But.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah, it's cool,
like
man. He sends me some pretty
though.
cool videos of it, and I'm like, man, that looks like it's very precise, very, very precise.
It's impressive, and they wash a lot of dogs out. I mean, as far as like our selection and their selection goes, like there's a lot of dogs that don't cut it. So, like I said, I'm still trying to figure it out. The way that they apply pressure is completely different than what we do. And then you'll talk to one trainer and they're doing one thing, and you'll talk to another trainer, they're doing something completely different. So I'm just trying to kind of find a program to at least stick with, so I can learn the basics before I start throwing any of my other information in there and trying to mess with it. But
sometimes to keep enjoyment in dogs, you got to do some stuff that's not making you money, like not a job.
Right.
Like Tara and Zach down in Ridgeside K9 Somerville. Tara has been on the show before. Good friends of ours. She competes pretty high level. She got a fucking house full of dogs now. She's like, I told her she's a crazy cat lady, but with working dogs. And she's doing different kinds of sports. She does like an IPO with one dog. I know she's doing some PSA, maybe even a ring sport. I can't remember. She got titles all the time. So I think she now exists in the pet dog world to fund all that other stuff. But she enjoys it, and it keeps her really fresh and interested in it because it's not paying her any money.
I think the closest I got to that is when I was in college. I had a working Jack Russell Terrier that was just a horrible dog. She was just 20 pounds of just hate, and hated everybody, hated me, hated everything. And I didn't have any money, goofy college kid. So we would get our skateboards and fill our backpacks full of beer and ride downtown on our skateboards and let the dogs. And one of my fraternity brothers had a rat terrier. We used to let him kill rats downtown. That was
nice.
fun.
Yeah.
That was when downtown Tulsa was scary. Now it's a bunch of
city version of barn hunt.
Exactly. And cops would show up and they're like, "What are you doing?" We're like, "Drinking beer and watching dogs kill rats." We're like, "I don't know that any of that's illegal." Like, I don't think it is. I mean, we were underage. They didn't give a shit. But yeah, that's the closest I ever come. That's some of the most fun I've ever had with a dog. So
love it.
This stuff's a blast, man. I mean, like I said, it gives me an opportunity to learn a little bit more, just different ways of training. And I think I probably will be able to apply some of it at some point here in the pet stuff as well. But like I said, for now, it's just definitely not professional. I'm doing that for me. So.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to watch. So I appreciate you coming on, man. We've been friends for a long time, and I can't remember. I just saw you one day. I was like, man, I should have this dude on, and we should do a whole thing on it, and I'm glad it worked out well. So appreciate you coming on. Do you have anything you want to plug?
No, I mean, I definitely, like I said, we were just talking about the stock dog stuff. I definitely want to say thank you to those guys that have been helping me out through that, because I know what it's like to for the phone to be ringing and questions to be coming in and things like that. So
one of those guys got my book, right? I think.
Yeah. So that was funny.
Don't say his name because they're not supposed to be using e-collars. So,
well, so it's more than, I mean, I'll tell you exactly why I kind of really, really fell in with this trainer. And this is a lesson I've learned through all the other dog stuff is, I see a guy that's not looking at it from the perspective of this is the only way. I always try to, I'm a firm believer, and a guy told me this back when I was at that original place. It was another handler, Jeremiah Pond, if you remember him. It was real early on, and he said, go to everybody. Go learn from everybody. You can learn something. Whether you're learning something that you don't want to do, you still learned something. So I got to one of these trials, and I just got around Josh a little bit, the guy from Diamond Y. And I was listening, on the sideline listening to him, and I kind of hear that mentality come out of him where it's like, yeah, he's trying to get better. He's trying to learn more and more and more and more. He's a hungry guy. So of course I'm going to find that guy to start to try to teach me. So, but those guys have been great. So I definitely want to thank Josh and then thank Jake for letting me run his dog. 'Cause it's not a not dangerous sport either. I mean, you're talking about, 45-pound border collie and some big calves running around and things like that. So, things can happen in that capacity, but, so it's kind of a big deal for him to say, hey, why don't you run them until your dog's ready? So
aren't cows like big dogs though? You get to go pet them.
they're way dumber.
So there's a lot
apparently
to it, man.
They taste better, but
they do taste better.
Cows are dumb.
That. They, they're herd animals, so they want to stay herded up. But like I said, that was the big thing that, Jake told me right off the rip. He says, hey, he's like, you're really good at handling the dog. You can't read cattle. You suck. So you need to learn to read cattle. Go read cattle. So that's
crazy to think about. Yeah.
I spent an entire career learning how to read a fucking dog. Now I got to do this.
Yeah. Now I got to read a cow. A bunch of them.
And all the pressure applies. It applies to cattle as well. Where you're standing, how much pressure each individual one will take, just like the dog. So you're worried about this. You're worried about a lot of stuff when you get out there. The guys that do it and do it well they're very impressive, and they've definitely taken it pretty seriously, and not just the sport. These dogs are out getting used.
Yeah,
on the
they're working, right?
It's awesome. It's really cool.
That's cool. All right, Ted, how about you? What do you want to promote?
Not much. I've got we got an HRD scheduled for the end of the year through our beginning of the year. So I'm going to be in North Carolina, Tennessee, Boston, somewhere on the West Coast. I have to look, Arizona. So yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff for that. And I've got this project we're working on in Eastern Europe. I'll be going over there in April. I think Alicia leaves next week to go for another meeting over there. So
is it fake taxi?
No, it's not fake taxi.
Agent.
No, it's not fake agent. Of course, I don't give a shit if that's what she wants to do. Whatever, it's not my problem. She'll hear this, be like, "You mother." Outside of that, we're just same old. Torchlight K9, letter K number 9 on all the social medias. Torchlight Pets too, if you want to see that. And then HRD Police K9. _dog_radio for the podcast. And then after the first of the year, we're going to be doing more stuff with our 501. Our state is actually kind of contemplating making heat alarms mandatory. Nice. It is a statute for fire and police dogs. Same thing with like emergency sirens and lights, same deal. But so we're kind of involved in that. So that should be interesting. But other than that, I'm just training dogs to find stuff and bite people.
Yeah, nice. That sounds good. I'm at Van S K9 on Instagram, Van S K9 Academy on Facebook. Check out my book. Go to Amazon, search my name, Eric Stanbro. You'll get Eric ST and it'll pop up. I've now sold enough copies that I'm pretty much at the top of that.
We got to get to the point where we just type Eric and it goes to it.
That would be great. Now I went from, I think if you type in e-collar, I'm number 1 on there. So that's pretty cool. Thank you those who have been supporting me. I appreciate it. Go check it out. I am now going to start booking 2025 on my e-collar seminar. So hit me up on.
We need to do like a contest that if you buy the book and you write a review and you send it to us, we put you in the drawing. Maybe that's how we need to give that whiskey away.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
So if you write Yeah, I don't know about the legalities
Let's
of this.
let's bring it up on the next one. Let's look into it and then bring it up on the next one.
Hold on a second.
So go check it out. I'm gonna start booking 2025. So you can email me, Eric at Van S K9, or just hit me up on Instagram. I always hit people up. Somebody's gonna listen to this right now, and I've been talking to them about my Tap Daddy BJJ stickers, and they got a brown belt, and I just got my brown belt stickers in for Tap Daddy. I cannot find that message anywhere to get the guy. He gave me his address to send him. So if you're listening to this and it's you, message me on Instagram and go, here, dumbass, because I completely have blanked on where that message is to get his address. So please check that out. Guys, give our sponsors a look. There's discount codes in the show notes. Appreciate your support for everybody on there. And if you go to workingdogradio.com, we got our t-shirt designs on there. We refired up the Make America Bite Again shirt.
Yeah, and fake news.
Yeah, the fake news one's on there.
I need to make an Elon Musk one. I just need to make it. I got to sit down and think about it for a little bit.
Yeah, we got to come up with something good for him. So anyway, CJ, I appreciate you coming on, man. It was good. We went a long time. It was a good episode. There's a lot of good information in there.
Faux show.
All right, man. We'll see you guys.
I appreciate you guys. Thank you.
See ya.